Are you ready for the ultimate one-on-one vampire hunter? I am, of course, talking Dracula versus Van Helsing. This is a two-player only game from 25th century. One person plays Dracula, one person plays Van Helsing. One person's trying to turn people into vampires. I think you know who that is. One person's trying to kill that person. I think you know who that is. So which side will you play? And is this worth playing either side? Well, stick around after break. I'll show you how it plays, and then after that, I will tell you how it plays. Here we are getting set up for the play of Dracula versus Van Helsing. You're going to put the board in the middle of the two players. You're going to give each person a card stand. You're going to put the boat on the round marker. You're going to put 4 people per section. You're going to randomly put out these color tokens. You're going to choose who is going to play Dracula. You're going to give them their health points. You are going to shuffle up the deck of cards. Then each person is going to draw 5 cards, putting them in the order that they drew them. You are also going to want to leave some room between your card holder and the board because some of these cards may be getting revealed and will at the end of each round. So in relation to the board and your cards are not allowed to move from where they are unless a special effect says otherwise. Also, where they are is lined up to where they are going to influence the districts. So this card right here will influence this one. This one is the 4, this one is the 3, this one is the 2, and the 1. Same thing here as this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The game is going to play over a max of 5 rounds. In a round, Dracula will always go first. What you're going to do on your turn is you are going to draw a card. You're going to look at that card and you're going to decide if you want to swap it with a card from your hand or if you're going to discard it. If you swap it from a card from your hand, that is the card that gets discarded. Based on what you discard, you are going to trigger the power of that card. Alternatively, on your turn, once there is at least 6 cards in the discard pile, you can knock. If you are knocking, you're going to signal that that's the end of the round. Your opponent will have one more turn to go, and then you're going to reveal your cards and move into the end of the round. When the round ends, you are going to resolve the districts in order from 1 to 5. What is going to happen is you are going to lay out your cards, and then you are going to resolve again starting in the 1. So we are going to look here, and you are going to see, is any of the cards the trump suit, which is the top marker here? They both are. So now you go by color order. This is a 3, this is a 7. So what happens is Van Helsing wins. So Dracula loses a point of health. Moving to the next one, is one of them trump? Yes. So even though this is a 2 and this is a 3, this player wins. So Dracula turns one of these markers to a vampire. Moving to the next one, both trump. This is higher. So Dracula loses a health. We move into the next one. Is either of these trump? They are not. All right, so now we are going to see which card is the highest value. If there is a tie, you then resolve it in this order. So this is a tie, red wins, so this one turns a vampire. We again get into this one, we have a 4, we have an 8, so 8 is higher than 4, so Dracula would lose 1 health. And that would be the end of the round. To clean up, you would collect all the cards, you would shuffle them up, you would then move this down, and then begin a new round again, each person taking 5 cards, Dracula going first, going back and forth. The game will end when either Dracula has turned 4 characters in the same village or the same area, or Van Helsing will win if Dracula runs out of health. Alternatively, if after 5 rounds, no one has won through one of those 2 ways, Dracula will be the winner. So Dracula can win by lasting throughout the game or turning 4 into vampires. So let me really quick go into what the different card effects are. All right, so first I will say color does not matter when you're playing these cards. All 1s have the same power, 2s, 3s, etc. So when you discard a 1, you are going to take one of your cards and you're going to reveal it face up. A number 2 reveals the top card of the deck. So now once a card is revealed this way, or various other ways, What happens is that card will always remain visible. So say I take this 7, which I would be drawing on my turn, and I would go ahead and replace this card. That card now stays visible. This one I would discard and do whatever its power is. But that card remains visible. And you'll see how that pertains as I get into a couple of these other discard abilities. If you discard a 3, you choose one of your opponent's cards to reveal. So if this person discards a 3, they'd say, I want to see that card. So then this card would then be revealed and laid face up. A 4 allows you to switch the places of 2 of your cards. Again, remember, if something is revealed, it stays revealed. So if I swapped this with this card, the 7 stays revealed. This card is still hidden, so it would be like that. 5 is you take another turn. 6 is you swap one of your cards with one of your opponent cards in the same district. So I couldn't swap this card with this end card. I could swap this right across here. But again, so say I switch my 7 with their card right here. The 7 stays visible. Mine does not anymore because it wasn't visible to begin with. When you discard 7, you can swap one of these markers with the trump suit. So I could just go like that. And finally, to discard 8, there needs to be at least 6 cards in the discard pile, because when you discard 8, the game ends immediately. Your opponent does not get another turn. So as I said, you are going to be playing the rounds back and forth like that, drawing cards, discarding cards, or possibly not getting to end the round until either Dracula has turned 4 people to vampires, Van Helsing has gotten rid of all of Dracula's health, or the game has ended at the end of the 5th round, resolving the last one, in which case Dracula wins. Let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on this. So there you have it. There's the basics, ins and outs of Dracula versus Van Helsing. So let's get into what I think of this one. We are going to start with inside the box. This is going to be all the components, all the bits and bobs, all the innards. And this one has some really nice stuff. The box stores everything really well. They have this little coffin that holds the tokens and the cards. That's really cool. The card holders themselves are nice solid wood. They hold the cards well. I think I kind of would have liked where it says Dracula versus Van Helsing. It's pointed at your opponent. For some reason, I just kind of would like to point it at the player. But that's a minor gripe that isn't really that bothersome. I will say the cards feel a bit more like tokens. They aren't your standard card stock where you can easily shuffle them. They're kind of like thick cards or thin tokens, kind of like a thin punchboardy feel to them. You can like shuffle them nice that way, and they stand well. And I think it was a good choice, because I think if you had just regular cards, especially that small with the way you're putting them down, lifting them up and all that, I think that would have been harder. So with them having that little bit of thickness and heft to them, revealing them and then pulling them up and moving them around works well. Same thing with standing in the holder. The rulebook itself is well written. It details the game, and then it gives all the powers on one sheet. That's another thing I kind of maybe would have liked, was maybe a player aid card for each player for all those powers. The symbology is pretty intuitive once you get it down, but for people who have a hard time with that, I think a player aid would have been nice, so each person can kind of look to see what each one does, as opposed to having the rule book out on the table with that list and graphic with what they all do. The artwork itself also really fits the theme well. It really kind of conveys that old time story of like Dracula versus Van Helsing. It's the images you think of when you think of like, you know, the books with Bram Stoker's Dracula and all the monsters. And back then, that artwork just really does do a good job of conveying the theme. So, 2-player changes? None. It's a 2-player only game. Again, you want changes to the game? Don't play this game, because it's 2-player only. Next, we get into gameplay. The gameplay itself is pretty simple. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to draw a card, and then you're going to discard a card. That's simple. But it has those interesting decisions that are needed of, you know, am I going to keep this card because it's a good number, even though the color is far down on the track, so it's more likely to lose tiebreakers? Do I keep this number just because it's trump suit? What do I think my opponent has? And just trying to maneuver. Plus, you know, maybe I really want to keep this card, but I really want to use that power. Like the 7, where you can change the disc. Like, you know, the 7's a good card, but I have 3 of the same color in my hand, so maybe I need to discard this to switch it up. even though I'm discarding a 7. Sometimes you might just need to get rid of a card from your thing, but then you're having to activate that power, and the power may not be something you want to do, but you're just going to have to end up going and doing it. And then the whole deciding, when do you knock, or do you hope that you get the 8, and even though an 8's a powerful card because it's an 8, discarding that to be able to end that game and not give your opponent a chance to react or get that last minute edge on you. And then speaking of that power with the 8, that is another thing I enjoy with this, is that the powers are kind of determined with the card number. So like a 1, 1s aren't that powerful. But if you need to get it out of your hand like you're going to want to do, in order to do that, you need to give some information to your opponent. So the fact that the 8 is a powerful card, and it's got a really good ability where it doesn't give your opponent a chance to do it. So you are getting a pretty good advantage, but you're having to give up something well. And just the arc that they do there, to where, like, you know, the ability of you wanting to get rid of something towards what it does kind of diverges right there and does that arc in the middle there. But overall, I will say this is a really nice entry in that 2-player only genre, and the fact that it utilizes a couple of mechanisms that typically don't work well in our opinion, in a 2-player game. I know there are some out there that utilize these mechanisms, but that I was able to take these 2 mechanisms of that area control almost for Dracula, when turn 4 into vampires, and then that trick-taking element of how the cards are resolved. You have a trump suit, and then you have that whole hierarchy, so if you do just tie but no trump suit, those cards then have the order. So kind of like that trick-taking resolution mechanic there with the area control that Dracula is trying to do. Normally those don't work very well in a 2-player game without some kind of tweaks, and the tweaks they did here was by merging them, and it is a good merge in my opinion. Saying that though, it does seem like Van Helsing is a bit harder to play, because the only way you can win is by getting rid of all of Dracula's health points. Dracula can turn the people, or he can just outlast Van Helsing by going through the full 5 rounds. So by doing that, I would say it does seem a little, it can start feeling a little helpless and hopeless come the 4th round. I know the one game that we had played, I looked and Bry had like, I think it was like 8 or 9 health going into round 4. It's like, well, all right, so if I lose like 2 cards, we can just call this game even though you haven't officially won, because then there's going to be no way I can do all that health to you. Whereas Dracula's like, all right, well, cool, I just outlasted you, so I won. Yay. So that's why I say Dracula seems a bit easier to play, because you can just try and outlast Van Helsing. And that kind of goes into that whole strategy of playing with Dracula, you know, is that if you are close to one district and you know Van Helsing's going to really go strong in that one, fine. Let that one go, and then just kind of outlast them and do the others, because every one that he doesn't win is one step closer to you winning by just outlasting him, because it's less damage he can do to you. So that is the one little like hiccup that I see with the game, is I'm not a fan of Dracula winning by outlasting Van Helsing. But does that affect my rating or my score? Well, it doesn't really reflect that, because I am going to say that this is very good. I am going to give this an 8 out of 10. I enjoy playing it. I would suggest it to people. For people who are looking for that 2-player experience in that tight little game, this is one. It's got some simple mechanics. It's fairly easy to carry out in conversation when you're playing it, because it is, like I said, simply drawing a card, discarding it, and doing its ability. So there's thought there, but not so deep of thought that you can't enjoy the presence of playing the game with someone at the same time. So as I said, an 8 out of 10. Now, if I could please go ahead and get you to head down below and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, ring the bell. Then, if you want to continue helping the channel, you could go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon. Check out our Ko-fi, join this channel down below, where you'll be able to get access to exclusive member perks, such as seeing our videos early, etc. If you're looking to purchase this game, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can go and head to 25th Century Games and check out their website, where they have this and many other great games. Or if you're looking for games besides just this one, you can also go ahead and hit Miniature Market. We have an affiliate link down below that if you use that and you purchase games, we do get a portion of that back to help run this channel. Alrighty, so avoid the steak or give it.